Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sport Network. We have a great show for you today. We will be covering Lewandowski suggesting he's going to stay at Barcelona, and we'll talk about Barcelona's future. We're going to discuss Italy trying to defend their Euro title this summer. We're going to discuss the FA Cup final and whether or not that is do or die for Erik ten Hag. We react to Guardiola being named Premier League Manager of the Year. And stay tuned till the end of the show where I'll discuss my thoughts on the importance of the Olympics for the U.S. men's national team. Before we start off, I'd like to ask y'all to like and follow the show. Also, we get a number of questions that come in during the show, so to ensure that your questions get read on the air, I ask that you use the tips and donations link at gsmcpodcast.net with your questions. This puts your questions at the top of the list so that I can see it, and also really helps the show. So again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net. But before we start off, I want to introduce y'all to our guests. We're joined by Manny and Kenneth. Kenneth, how are y'all? Manny and Kenneth, how are y'all?
I'm doing good. Excited to talk about some soccer.
Yeah, this is the first time on the show, so I'm excited. I'm excited to get a discussion going.
We're gonna start off with Robert Lewandowski. He came out, with a statement suggesting he's gonna stay at Barcelona. No real surprises there, but we want to talk about what do you think the future holds for Barcelona. Xavi stepped down a couple months ago, but then since then they went on a decent run in the Champions League, and they came together and he decided to stay. Now he said something that provokes the Barcelona board, Joan Laporta, and it's looking like a dicey situation all over again. So what are your thoughts? How do you see the future hold for you? Whoever wants to go first.
I could start just because I have followed it just because I am a fan of Barca. So it was funny that you brought up the topic in the group chat. It is weird, definitely. Not fun following it as a fan, but it has been going like this really for Barca. And then to look now into the future with this team, pretty talented, but at the same time, if you don't have the manager, he's leaving, then he's staying, now he's potentially leaving again. Not what you want at a top club, but at the same time, it's a shame because they have a lot of talent on their team, but where they look now, I think Xavi's going to probably end up leaving. I think it's just too much back and forth by this time. I think he's just going to be done with it. And there is talks about Hansi Flick being their manager, so if that becomes the case, that would be interesting because I think he's something different than they've had, but I think Xavi will move on, and they're going to sort of start over again next year. But they have a talented team, so it shouldn't be too much of a change. But I'm interested to see it for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of looking into it a little bit. At first, I just a disclaimer, not the biggest soccer fan in the world. So I was a little, nervous coming on. But I was looking into it a little bit, and you guys already talked about it. There was a lot of back and forth. It was do we want to keep him? Do we not want to keep him? And then you said, Emran, he stepped down. So I guess for me, my question is why was there so much back and forth? Was it just kind of one of those things where he was kind of outdated, I guess I want to say, or what was the main reason why he stepped down? Is it kind of I'll bring American football into this? Is it kind of like Bill Belichick, where it's we kind of need a new voice now with the organization?
No, not necessarily. He first of all, I think it's important the context of it. He is a club legend. He's a legend for the club, and he's not one of the guys that played a long time ago. He retired 2016, 17, around there. I don't know exactly. A legend of the club, and had a very short managerial stint before making the move to Barca. I think the main thing with him leaving was kind of the pressure of being a manager of Barcelona, being the manager that, he's a Catalan, he's from that city, he's of that ethnicity, the pressure of that. The media, when it comes to, La Liga or Premier League in European soccer, is very very harsh. It's a little
Right.
different than American sports. The media there is very very harsh, and there's pressure day in day out. And when you're a team like Barcelona, the pressure is not just to compete every single year. It's to win trophies every single year. That is the expectations. And he said it in his press conference shortly after he stepped down, where he said, you guys, you will never allow someone to stay here for a while. The way that, like, essentially talking about like how cutthroat it is, how hard it is, how the day to day, it was just too much stress for him to manage. And he's also looking at it from this perspective. He doesn't have the club does not is currently in a financial struggle, and they don't have the capabilities to compete with their main rivals, Real Madrid, who are going to Champions League finals over and over again, who are in the summer kind of signed Mbappe. But I don't want to go on too long because Manny is the Barcelona fan. If you want to add on anything that I'm trying to say, Manny.
No, yeah, that you make a good point because you mentioned that jump he made. He retired fairly soon, probably no more than 10 years ago, 9 years ago, and then he became the coach of the team that he was playing for in like Saudi or somewhere over there, and he became the coach of that team over there, and then to make the jump to one of the biggest clubs in Europe, known worldwide, it's a massive jump. No matter if you played there, if you were a great player like he was there. So I think now looking back on it, obviously hindsight is 2020. So looking at that back now, should he have gone somewhere else before making such a big jump? Probably yes is the answer to that. And again, the financial situation doesn't help. Like Emran said as well. When you have the pressure of playing well and your biggest rival is, winning all the trophies, it's extremely hard as a manager. And again, I just felt now that they know they need a more experienced voice in there. That's why you have the rumors with Hansi Flick. Thomas Tuchel was thrown in there a couple of times, and maybe Rafa Marquez as well. So with Xavi, it's just a shame to see because he was so loved as a legend and as a player. But I think now they won the league with him last year, so that was pretty well. And they did all right in the Champions League this year. But I think it just became too much for him to sort of deal with. And now there is a lot of pressure, so they're going to have to try and make a change now with it.
And I think we should, change the perspective of where we're talking from just a little bit. We're talking about the pressure and all that of him being the manager of Barcelona, but he came with the board and he decided he wants to stay. They went on that run in the Champions League where they got very unlucky, where they lost primarily because of a red card. They went on that run. They had some decent form in La Liga. They were able to, turn it around just a little bit, and they came together and he decided he wanted to stay. But now the talk is, it's the Barcelona board and the Barcelona president, Joan Laporta, who's the one thinking about letting go of Xavi because of comments that he made. And comments that he made, by the way, all he was doing was just spitting reality. They don't have the financial capabilities to compete with Real Madrid right now. They don't. Real Madrid are about to bring in, yes, on a free transfer, but they're about to bring in a guy like Mbappe. They're going to bring in potentially someone like Alphonso Davies. Like Barcelona, they're going to be scrapping for free transfers during the summer. They're not going to be able to compete with Real Madrid. And that's literally what he said. They don't have the financial capabilities. And I think Joan Laporta, I guess he considered it a betrayal. Maybe there was, some sort of agreement that they had together to not have this like negative perspective told to the media. I don't know. But it's just, for me, it's very, very childlike the way the Barcelona board and president is operating. I don't know, because it's too much of an emotional roller coaster. When you're on the top of that, you kind of have to have like a level head. If you want to add anything.
Well, I was going to say, I know like you guys are saying they maybe want more like of a more experienced coach. But is it also like they kind of want someone that's not really going to like speak out and just kind of like be
a yes man?
Like, more of like yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. Yes man.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. I don't know at this point, honestly, what they are looking for, because they're so back and forth with it. But I think that is it to a certain aspect. But also, if they do bring in someone different, I would like to see them, bring in someone that doesn't fit the mold of the Barcelona sort of style. That's usually been their MO, finding someone that fits their style. And I think almost that could be their biggest problem. They're too traditional with it. They almost just really filter their options to former players or players that they know can sort of play that similar style. And I think it's just outdated, honestly. I think we mentioned that before. It's just outdated now, and a lot of teams now are a lot more physical and just faster, and they're just focusing on winning and results, which is all that matters really at the end of the day. And while Barcelona is still in a spot where they find the coach that they want, but also try to fit this mold of the way that they want to play. And sometimes that doesn't get the result, and that's where you get all the pressure and scrutiny and all this sort of things off of the field, which just becomes a distraction.
Well, now, do they also still have to pay him? I know I even with him leaving, because I think I saw something that said that, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, he's on a contract, but that's nothing to the board.
Okay,
they're
gotcha.
able to, that's nothing to them. Especially because the coaches, they don't count part of this, like, salary limitations or any of that either.
Gotcha.
But my main thing I want to ask Manny real quick before we finish off this segment, do you think the main reason why we've seen a decline in Barcelona's success over the past half a decade or so is because of their outdated system, or because of their lack of ability to compete financially with other top Premier League clubs or Real Madrid and so on?
Yeah, I would probably go more for the outdated style, honestly, because even so, that they don't have the finances, you've seen them find players like, just off the top of my head, like Pedri. He came over for cheap. Gavi was a academy player. Lamine Yamal now is an academy player. Pau Cubarsí is another academy player, and they're all top talents for how young they are. So just from that aspect of it, I don't think it's so much the finances, because you're able to find, there's a little bit of luck into it, obviously, but you're able to find some of these young talents. And because of that, it's more so the style, because I think they just need to try something different to get the most out of these players. And if they do that, I think it'll lead to better results. But for right now, the finances don't seem to be the problem if you find such talented players like everyone has labeled these young players that Barcelona has.
Okay. We're going to take a short break here. When we come back, we're going to discuss Italy and their chances at the upcoming European Championships.
Looking for your...
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is
Before the break, we discussed Lewandowski suggesting he'll stay at Barcelona and talk about their future, what the future holds for them. But we have to start off with, we have to continue on with Italy. They announced their 30-man preliminary squad for this upcoming European Championship. They are the defending champions. So, guys, do y'all think Italy has any sort of realistic chance to defend their title this summer?
I mean, I was looking at the betting odds, actually. I think I still have the tab. Yeah, so right now, depending on like what sportsbook you use, they have like around like the same odds as like Belgium, and then you have like ahead of them Spain, Portugal, Germany, and then you have France and England at the top. I know, I guess from like some of the things that I was like looking at, they don't have the same exact team, so yeah, it's going to be a little bit different. Because obviously, I mean, you see that all across sports. I mean, like when teams are going, like you have the Patriots and the Yankees. Like obviously, like you have your main core, but like the surrounding players, like you'll lose them because they all go off and try to get bigger contracts. Obviously, this is a little bit different, but They have some sort of a chance, I would say. But I think there's other teams, at least from what I'm looking at, that are going to be better. Like, I guess, yeah, like what I was just talking about. Like, England right now is the favorites. So, like I said, there's a chance, but again, it's a different team, and it might be a weaker team as opposed to the last time they won.
Many.
Yeah, I would probably agree with you, Kenneth, just because you were right on track there with just mentioning this team. It is definitely different because some of them just have moved on, or some of them just haven't been recalled to the squad there in Italy. And honestly, I didn't think they were going to win it the last time they did. Just compared to all the other teams, I thought, I don't know, there just wasn't a chance competing with France and England and all those teams, but they ended up winning it, to everyone's surprise, at least to mine. And again, if they have the same amount of chance or less, I would probably go with less, like you said, Kenneth, too. Just because if you're looking at that England squad, I think now, whereas before they were a little bit younger, competing still at the highest level, now they're that much older, and I think they're definitely better. I'd probably give them the best chance. Maybe I'd probably, along with France, just because they have Mbappe. But it's probably going to be those two as my favorites.
I think France is the clear favorites. I don't give England that big of a chance to win the Euros, but I've said that a lot, and I have a whole other segment dedicated for that. But regarding Italy, Italy is a team that has quality in certain areas. Like, I do like Barella, Jorginho. Their goalkeeper situation is a solid goalkeeper group with Donnarumma and Vicario. Di Lorenzo, he's having a poor season at Cherby and all that, but they have a decent backline. My main problem with them is attack. Their attacking prowess. I don't know who they go up with number 9. They didn't take Immobile. It's between Retegui and Scamacca. Two guys I wouldn't really trust at that stage. Retegui, he's been decent for Italy, but he's very inexperienced. And then Scamacca, he's been up and down, up and down. He was a Premier League flop at West Ham. I think their attacking talent is what will be the end of them. I like Luciano Spalletti. What he did at Napoli last season was brilliant. He's a brilliant manager, but he's came in Italy in a little bit short, and he's got them playing a little bit better football than what they were playing in their later runs with Mancini. So I like that aspect of it. But when it comes to the quality, this team is, in the Italian standpoint, is pretty poor when you look at previous national teams that they've took into these big tournaments. Even last Euros, they had quality with Bernardeschi coming off the bench, Berardi, Immobile, Chiesa playing the best football of his career. He hasn't reached those levels that he was at that Euros, and that's the thing. Some of these guys, the Chiesas, the Di Lorenzos, they were playing top ball at the Euros. He's escaping my mind. The other fullback, he went on to Roma. He ended up tearing his Achilles at the end of the tournament. But they were playing some top football at the last European Championship. And we're not seeing... I don't think that they're capable of it this year. Winning it, I think, is a little bit of a stretch. But I never sleep on an Italian national team. Actually, Manny, you said you didn't think they were winning the last one. I actually predicted beforehand that they would win the European Championship. And I'm sitting here today and I'm giving them a very little chance. So it kind of shows the significant drop-off in my opinion.
You know what else is funny on it? Just to go off of what you said there a little bit with this Italian team. The biggest thing I think with some of these players, and you mentioned it a little bit, Emran, is that some of them, they come and they're up and down during their club season, but then at the same time, once they have the Italian shirt on, it almost seems like they become a different player. And that's what I think a lot of the Italian players do. I think they're very passionate about their country. And attacking players, I'm with you with Scamacca. I would probably think he's going to be the number 9, but at the same time, he played with Atalanta. He was all right. But then I, again, wouldn't be surprised if he played for Italy and was among the top scorers in the Euros, quite honestly, just because they are so passionate about their country. But that is a pretty bold claim. But then again, I still have doubts about their attack. Defensively, they're all right. I think they'll get by. But when it comes to a shootout or scoring goals, they might just park the bus, honestly.
I mean, Italy used to be a team, every World Cup they entered, every European Championship, the expectation was minimal, win the title. Now you're getting to a point where they're kind of scrapping for these dual nationals. They're getting, like a lot of their team, they've gotten a lot of dual nationals. Emerson, Jorginho are Brazilian by birth. Retegui, he's Argentine. They're having to, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I live in a country, the U.S. men's national team, they do that all the time. They just scrap over. They build the world 11 of players that have any sort of American blood. I'm not against that. I'm just saying Italy, they didn't have that desperation in years past to get quality in their team. It was just like, oh, we need to build a team. Boom, 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 boom. Here you go. Let's win the World Cup in 2006 with one of the best defenses in the world at that time, made up of Cannavaro and Materazzi. They don't have that nowadays. It's just not that time of Italian football. Y'all, real quick, y'all got a little bit left if y'all want to add on anything. Y'all got like 50 seconds left.
Yeah, and like the other thing too is I know like their last couple of runs, I guess, with the World Cup really didn't go that well, and that was like in between like this Euro and the one that they won. So it's like, how are they going to make that jump from that to two lackluster runs to now winning the whole thing again with like.
They've done it before. That's the one thing they can say. They've done it before.
Exactly. I mean, that's the only thing you can really look at. So.
Okay, guys. Okay, Manny and Kenneth. Thank y'all, guys. Y'all were great additions to the show, and I think y'all be on next week. So I'll see y'all then.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you. Thanks, Emran.
Yeah, of course. But yeah, I mean, Italy is not some team that I'm giving no chance at all whatsoever. I mean, Italy is a team still. They have some quality in certain areas, but this squad is not up there to compete with the likes of England, a Spain, a France, a Portugal, even a Netherlands. They don't have those. They don't have that kind of squad. Even a Belgium team kind of in transition. They don't have the squad to compete with those teams at the end of the day. They flat out, they don't have those squads. And it's really disappointing drop off for them. But I think this is a good opportunity for them with Luciano Spalletti to make a run at the next World Cup. I think if they can bring in, somebody that can change life for Italy up top, man, I think that's a game changer. If you bring in a clinical goal scorer with the ability that Italians have shown in previous tournaments, I think it's kind of their DNA, their ability, just their natural ability to be able to defend. That is part of their nature. But what now they need a goal scorer, They need Chiesa up there fit and running, and I think they can use this Euros as a way to build something. Because, look, winning this Euros is a little bit unrealistic, but what's more realistic for them is using this Euros as a platform to improve the team so that not only you qualify for the World Cup, that you put a good foot in the World Cup. Because the last time we've seen Italy play a World Cup game was 2010. The last time Italy played a knockout stage game in a World Cup was the 2006 World Cup final that they won. That is the last time Italy has played a knockout stage game in the World Cup. So the World Cup should be the main goal for Italy. We're going to take a short break here. When we come back, we'll discuss the FA Cup final. For the break, we discussed Italy defending their Euros title this summer. But now I gotta discuss the FA Cup final. Whether or not this is do or die for Erik ten Hag. And the better question is not whether this is do or die for Ten Hag, is if Ten Hag is gonna die even if he does the FA Cup final. Because that's the situation that we're looking at. So Manchester United, it's been reported by credible sources, not just some Mickey Mouse journalists, but some credible sources that have very good sources. They have already been speaking with the representatives of Ipswich Town's manager McKenna, who's brought the team from Football League 1 to Championship to Premier League in back-to-back seasons. It's been reported that they've already started communications with the representatives of McKenna, and keep in mind, this is before the FA Cup final. So, look, if they're already starting to communicate with other managers, the question is not whether or not it's do or die for Ten Hag. It's whether or not Ten Hag is kind of, if he's gone no matter what. That's the main thing. Is he gone no matter what? And from those reports, I mean, number one, it's kind of a joke, an embarrassment that Man United allowed this to be public, even to do this in the first place was wrong, but to leak this information is so wrong on so many levels. You got a team, you got a manager preparing for the most important game of the season. You got a team preparing for their most important game, a game to have some sort of salvage anything of this season, this horrible season, this nightmarish season. And then you come out with, and then this is really I feel bad for Erik ten Hag. Erik ten Hag has been a manager. This is his first big club that he has managed. When I say big club, obviously Ajax is a big club in the Netherlands, but we're talking relatively big club in world football. Ajax doesn't have that Man United type of pool. Man United is one of the biggest teams in the world. You could argue probably the third biggest club in the world. The amount of fans that they have all over the world, the pressure of being a manager in the Premier League, game in, game out, having difficult tasks, whether you're playing against a team with the squad and caliber of Manchester City, or if you're going up against a team like Luton Town, it's gonna be a dogfight day in and day out. And Erik ten Hag came in his first season, and he had, with everybody's expectation, a brilliant first season, finishing third, reaching a FA Cup final, winning a trophy for the first time in a very long amount. Man United were on a very long trophy drought going back to their days with Jose Mourinho. So he was able to break that curse of winning a trophy for United. He was able to bring in get them back into playing Champions League football. And they had a relatively good season. They went on multiple long stretches of playing unbeaten football. And they were playing, some good football at times. But then this season, it's just been so bad on so many different levels when it comes to the injuries, when it comes to the significant drop-offs of certain players that were deemed very, very talented. You bring in Ten Hag last year. He brings in guys like a Casemiro and the Eriksen to give an immediate impact to this team. And then a year later on, he's having to not replace them, but provide cover for them by bringing in Amrabat and Mason Mount, who have both been, useless in terms of this season's production. And then the style of play this season. Manchester United, they want to play attacking football that's pleasing to the fans. And Erik ten Hag's football has been rather dreadful this season, been pretty embarrassing. And then on top of that, there's been some bad moments culminating this season. I think the worst of worst was that game against Coventry, being up 3-0 with 20 minutes or so remaining, any top club. They close that out. They don't let Coventry even sniff the ball. This is a championship side. Let alone them get anywhere near the box. You don't even let them have a chance to hold on to the ball. You pass out the game. You leave. You finish it off. But instead, Man United got put on their back foot, and they were literally this much, not even an inch away from being eliminated based on an offside goal from VAR. It was literally this kind of margins. That's the only thing that stopped Man United from getting eliminated from Coventry. And if I believe it was Haji, right? If it was this closer to him on the other side of the Man United defender, well, we won't even be having this discussion. Ten Hag would be gone by now, and the Man United would probably have hired their new manager because their season would have ended after their last Premier League game. But now, look, if Erik ten Hag wins, does that give, the United new board like a little bit of confidence? Like, oh, we punch above our weight against a Manchester City, winning an FA Cup final. He's won 2 trophies in 2 years. Does that give him a realistic out? Not if they're talking to other managers as we speak right now. I mean, at the end of the day, not if they're already talking to McKenna and his representatives and all that. If that's the case, just forget about it. Forget about it, because clearly in their mind, they've decided. Now, what's the point in discussing with another manager if you've already, if you don't know whether or not what you're going to do? What's the point in discussing with another manager if you don't know yet? It's clear this United board, they know what they're trying to do. They're trying to move on from Erik ten Hag. And again, I've said it is pretty embarrassing the way that they've behaved and operated. But at the end of the day, United has been a club in turmoil for years on top. And they bring in some sort of change in US or whatever, not new ownership group, but new people running football, and a new ownership group in a certain stake. Glazers still majority owners, but the football operations running within US. But this is the same bullcrap that the Glazers would have done the past couple of years. So it's making me think maybe the Glazers still have some sort of, maybe they're still really the main guys in charge. I mean, they do have they're still major owners. They're still the primary owners. So it's making me see, like, are you telling me a new operation has came in to run football and operations, and they've gone and they're on the same, nonsense that the Glazers are on? If that's the case, then that's also hugely disheartening for Manchester United, because I mean, that's just horrible luck. that's just horrible luck. Yeah. I don't know how Erik ten Hag compartmentalizes all of this with the FA Cup final, having to prepare for Manchester City. That's just a tough, thing to deal with. And I don't know if Wembley is going to be able to paper over all the cracks at Manchester United. I think Erik ten Hag, he can hang his hat on the emergence of Kobe Mainoo and Garnacho under him. But then again, he's had, the way he handled the Ronaldo situation, then praised, but now you're looking at it, maybe Ronaldo was right. The way he handled the Jadon Sancho situation, and now Jadon Sancho, look what he's doing for Borussia Dortmund. He's, one of the main reasons why they're in a Champions League final after the brilliant display he had in the first leg and the good football he's playing out of Borussia Dortmund. And I want to know what Jim Ratcliffe is trying to do. What is his plan? He wants to make Manchester United the biggest club in Manchester. Well, they're the biggest club, but the main club in Manchester again. By adding a plan of a new stadium and this and this and that. And that's all important, don't get me wrong. But first of all, have a set of footballing idea of what you want to do. And if you are going to bring in a new manager, okay, bring in the new manager, bring in your manager. But don't go be pulling this nonsense of, a few days before an FA Cup final, going to talking about a replacement for your manager. Like, that's just wrong on so many different levels. I'm going to take a short break here. But when I come back, I'm going to discuss Guardiola being named manager of the year and my thoughts on that.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Before the break, I discussed the FA Cup final, whether or not it's do or die for Ten Hag. But we have to react. It happened a few days ago, actually, but I haven't had the chance to speak about it, so we'll speak about it today. Pep Guardiola, he has been named manager of the season, his 5th title, after winning the 4th straight Premier League for Manchester City. Phenomenal achievement for him. Brilliant manager. I mean, it's obvious, we all know we know he's a brilliant manager. But let's break down everything of this. Number one, he is the 5-time Premier League manager season of the year now. That is second in Premier League history, behind Sir Alex Ferguson, who has, I believe, 11. It's a ridiculous number. So that's a remarkable achievement. He has 5 Premier Leagues, 5 in 6 years. Remarkable achievement. The way that they've came in and dominated the Premier League is kind of inspirational, despite the crazy amount of money that they've had pumped in by oil money, the amount of money that they have to go in and bring players year in, year out, have guys like Guardiola come in for $100+ million and not play the first couple months, paying $100 million for Jack Grealish to sit on the bench for a year, being able to do things like that. And, now he's a 5-time Premier League manager of the year. Okay, look, I know that sounds a little bit condescending, but I believe plenty of managers would have been able to do what Pep Guardiola did with the players that he's had given to him, the amount of financial capabilities Manchester City has. And something that rubbed me the wrong way is the comments he had a couple of days ago talking about money this, money that, how they don't spend the most money. It's just flat out wrong. It's factually incorrect. And I guess the aura of Pep Guardiola kind of protects him from getting the criticism he deserves, because you can't say things like that are just factually incorrect and nobody saying nothing about it. It was just so amazing to me. Now, whether or not do I believe he should have been Premier League manager there? No, I believe Unai Emery did more with less. Not more with less, but he did for the sum of the parts of what Aston Villa had, getting them into the Champions League, the football that they played to do it. They didn't play no defensive football. They played very, very good attacking football. The results that they had throughout the season, they defeated Arsenal twice. Out of their 4 losses, they did it twice. The performances that they had, the attacking display, the emergence of players like John McGinn and Ollie Watkins that happened under him, and the way he had to start off with the turmoil that they faced at Newcastle, kind of getting blitzed despite playing very, very well, but keeping the team, keeping the locker room tight and collective and together. and the ability that they've shown, their ability to defend one-on-one, the mess that they looked last year before he came in and took over to what they are now. It's just a remarkable job that he's done with Aston Villa, taking that team. We're going to be seeing Champions League games in Villa Park next season, and it's because of Unai Emery. The way that in midfield with Douglas Luiz and John McGinn is proper footballing midfield now. They play proper football. They always were players with a little bit of quality, right? They had a quality in there. John McGinn is a fantastic player. But what Unai Emery has got this team playing, how his in-game decision-making of deciding whenever, especially when they're playing against a good team, whenever they're, observe pressure, and then the switch that they make where they decide to chase a game, their ability to go side to side from one end of the pitch to another, the way that they move the ball, it shows the work that Unai Emery has done. So for me, he should be the manager of the year. As far as Pep Guardiola, though, look, I will give him credit where he deserves. When you're as good as Manchester City, motivation could be sometimes an issue. And he said it himself. If he didn't believe he can improve this Man City team, he'll believe. He said that a while back. And look, he hasn't improved the team based on point totals or so, but the way that the clutchness in the team, the understanding of the pressure of having someone chase you from behind, game in, game out, and for them to having to go on these ridiculous unbeaten runs to get rid of teams on their backs like Arsenal and Liverpool. The one thing you cannot argue about is the league being weak at the time, because Man City, they have beaten proper league title capable teams. This Arsenal team that they played last season, that team is a league title winning team, capable team. The Liverpool teams, the two Liverpool teams that took them to the final day, those are Liverpool teams that are league winning capable. In 99% of other seasons, those three teams win their leagues in their respective campaigns. But because of the dominance, Manchester City, their ability to not be scared of a team chasing them from behind, they relish the pressure of watching Arsenal the day before win a game, knowing they have to score 3 points or they're allowing Arsenal to get in front of them. They exceed in that pressure, and when they show their ability to do it day in and day out, it's not only a testament to the players, but it's a testament to the manager and the discipline that he's created with the team, the concentration, the focus, and obviously there is luck involved too. But Manchester City create their own luck at the same time too. I mean, Vincent Kompany scoring the goal against Leicester to win them the league title. A week ago, or Ortega making those, making that save one-on-one against Son. Luck is required, but Manchester City, they make their own luck too at the same time. So, Pep Guardiola did say after this that he's closer to he said something like he's closer to leaving than staying, or whatever that means. But he's been there for 9 years, so technically, we know for sure he's not going to manage another 9 years, or manage Manchester City for another 9 years. So I don't think the quote really says much. But I really think he has enjoyed his time at Manchester City. He stayed at Bayern for 3 seasons. He stayed at Barcelona for 4. He's coming up on his 9th season at Manchester City. It's clear Manchester City is a club that he enjoyed. And keep in mind, Barcelona, that was his club that he managed growing up. He played for. And, he's a Catalan. That's what he loved growing up. But being at Manchester City is something that he's enjoyed and something that he's excelled in and prospered in. And whenever you got the amount of money you have able to spend at Manchester City on incoming players, why should you be concerned? Why should you want to leave? There's no other. This is for a manager. This is a managerial. I don't like using the term heaven because I think there's only one heaven, but that's a whole different topic. But it's kind of like a managerial dream. A managerial dream to go to play at Manchester City or to coach at Manchester City. The amount of money that they have to spend being in the Premier League, it's just amazing for them. He has a chance to win multiple Champions Leagues for Manchester City. He's only had one so far. Winning a second for Manchester City puts them up with some of the top English Premier League clubs. That then you start chasing the Chelseas, who have two, the Uniteds that have I forgot how much United have. I believe Liverpool have the most. You can you can start building a Manchester City European pedigree, and it's surprising to me that they haven't really had found them. No, it's not surprising to me, but I think the main focus, not the main focus, because Premier League is more of a year-round thing, but there should be an added emphasis in Pep Guardiola in his last years or whatever at Manchester City. He should really have more emphasis on the Champions League, because winning 5 Premier Leagues is amazing, but winning multiple Champions League, building a European pedigree for this football club is doing something that nobody has been able to do with a club like PSG. Although PSG has had dominance in League One, they have no sort of European pedigree. If you're able to build a European pedigree at Manchester City, you're going above and beyond some of these other teams that just have crazy money. Because, money can buy you the Premier League, because the Premier League is year-round. And the Premier League is over 38 games, it's a round robin. So basically the best team, the best squad, the best coach team is always going to win every single time. But a league like the Champions League, it's a great deal of mental strength, being able to observe pressure in certain moments. It's a great measuring stick of clutchness, of your ability to withstand pressure, your ability to make to create a moment of magic when your team needs it the most. That's why Real Madrid, they're a brilliant example of that. They're not going to win La Ligas year in and year out, despite them being probably the more, because they're not the most crazy talented team like Manchester City is. May I remind you, last season, Real Madrid lost the La Liga to Barcelona team that's not really that strong either. But the nature that they have in the Champions League, their ability to get it done in those kind of ties and those pressurized moments, their ability to come back, have miraculous comebacks, that's just what Real Madrid are. We're going to take a short break here. When we come back, I'm going to discuss the final topic of the show, the importance of the Olympics for the U.S. men's national team. Our last segment of the day, the importance of the Olympics for the U.S. men's national team. The U.S. men's national team has qualified for the Paris Olympic men's football games. This is the first time that they'll be playing in the Olympic men's football since the Beijing Olympics in 2008, which is really really wrong for that to ever occur, the way that U.S. Soccer allowed that to happen. But we're not looking at the past, we're looking at the future. And I'll be lying to you if I told you I have a huge, deep understanding of the current U23 landscape. But as the Olympics get closer, I'm definitely gonna do a lot more research, do a lot more film watch to see the capabilities of the players we have. But I do want to discuss the importance of the Olympics. The core players in the Olympics, this is a national stage for them to go in, not international stage for them to go in and to get some eyes on from club owners. We've seen a lot of stars emerge from the Olympic Games, a lot of stars. I can go in, if we want to start off from 2008 when we have Messi, Di Maria, Otamendi, and them boys from Argentina. In 2012, you got the Neymar, the Hulks, the Oscar. That 2012 team, the Marcelos, that 2012 Brazilian team, almost 60-70% of them were at the World Cup 2 years later. That Olympics also had the emergence of Mexico with Oribe Peralta, Giovanni Dos Santos, Hector Herrera, Marco Fabian. The Egypt team at the Olympics had Mohamed Salah. So it shows these players, they get enormous exposure. The 2016 Olympics was the emergence of a guy like Serge Gnabry, who was one of the leading scorers in that tournament. He was absolutely phenomenal. He got more exposure, didn't really do well in the years after, but then he eventually found a home in Bayern Munich, where he's been very, very dominant. A little bit on the downside this season, but he's had an excellent career up to this point. And then the last Euros, you had Richarlison, but he was already emerged, to be honest. Douglas Luiz was in that squad. Jauno Cueto was in that squad. From Spain, we saw the likes of Pedri, Oyarzabal. It's a way for players to get more exposure. It's also they can also bring in 3 overage players, so it gives you a little bit more attention in terms of the international stage, especially in 2016 in Brazil, when they brought in Neymar, and it became like one of the major talks in the soccer world. Can Neymar win the first Olympic gold for Brazil? It was the Olympic gold medal match game completely filled up. Everybody was watching. In the US, they get to open up this Olympic Games against France, which for me is beautiful because we get to see this team on a national stage. The stadium's going to be filled because it is a French World Cup. They're going to be potentially playing against Mbappe, who's still trying to, play at the Olympics this summer as one of the overage players for France. They're definitely France are definitely Real Madrid denied permission for Mbappe to play at the Olympics. That came out a few hours ago, but Kylian Mbappe is not a Real Madrid player yet, and that could easily change based on what happens and all that. He can use that as leverage or to sign or whatever. But it's clear Thierry Henry, the French president, they all want him to play. In France, they're going to go all out for these Olympic Games just because they are the host. They're going to try to build the ultimate team of U23s and bring in 3 overage players that can provide experience for them. So that's going to be a brilliant way for them to kick off their tournament against France at the Olympic Games. But as I was saying earlier, this is a tournament in which they can get exposure. They also take on France, New Zealand, and Guinea, I believe is Guinea. It was the AFC CAF playoff winner. It was Guinea. So, not the worst of group in the world, just based on, what we know of New Zealand, they're going to be expected to get out of the group, and they have a chance to really put themselves on the international stage. We've missed the last two, and we missed the World Cup in 2018. And some of those key guys that missed the Olympics in 2012 and 2016, the 24 to 28, those were the guys that were going to be in the squad in to help us reach 2018, which we couldn't reach. So it's very, very important, and it's good to get back in the stage because it shows that the youth soccer development is getting better. As we see Mexico falling up, they're starting to miss out on Olympics, and Mexico has done a brilliant job in taking the Olympics seriously. They take a full team, a full U23 team. They try to send their 3 best overage players, and they really push for that tournament, and they won it in 2012. Hats off to them. The U.S. soccer team, they need to build some sort of that kind of culture, in my opinion. Now, are you going to send your 3 best overage players? No, because you're already going to be playing Copa America already. But you can bring in like a guy that I think, like someone like a Tim Ream, a Walker Zimmerman. You can send them 3 overage players that provide experience, but that also has quality. More so was Tim Ream in the quality part rather than Walker Zimmerman. But you know what I'm trying to say. Obviously, the Copa America is the first priority of your U23 player, but you're like if you're capable of playing for the first team, you're playing for the first team because the Copa America's first priority. Like, let's be honest, Giovanni Reina, Yunus Musa, they're not gonna go. They're not gonna go to the Olympics. Let's just be honest. They're not gonna go to the Olympics. The U.S. Soccer Federation is gonna send them to Copa America, keep them at Copa America, and allow the Olympics to be a rest for them. Even though there's other national teams like Spain that'll do otherwise, I'm very interested to see how they address it with them being in the Olympics and Copa America. If they go with the same mindset that they had last season of overplaying their guys, like Pedri and Oyarzabal and all that. Are they going to do that again? I'm very, very interested. They're also in the Olympic Games. But no. Now, the U.S. soccer team in 2000, they made the bronze medal match. They lost in the bronze medal match, but they were able to get there. And it was the emergence of Landon Donovan at that Sydney Olympic Games. Now, who is that? Who's going to make that sort of emergence in this squad of players? We're all going to be very, very interested to see. We're all going to be watching it because the Olympics is a big international event, and if the U.S. is competing, even if it's men's soccer, people are going to watch. I want to make that also. I want to highlight that specific. This is kind of the Copa America. That's going to be a big tournament too. But the Olympics is kind of a next level kind of lights that are on these players. There's going to be a lot of people, a lot of U.S. soccer, a lot of U.S. casual fans that are going to tune into the Olympics. So this is a great way to tune up for the World Cup, to build a little bit of a soccer culture in America. As you know, people sit by the TV and they watch the U.S. take on France at the Olympic Games. They watch the U.S. take on New Zealand, take on the Guinea, go to the quarterfinals and take on these teams. It's a brilliant opportunity for them to gather up the casual fans and to start building the footballing culture in America as they build to make some sort of run in the 2026 World Cup. But yeah, we are gonna conclude the show here. Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast presented by the GSMC Sport Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show and leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. Thank you once again and have a wonderful